The majority of Arab tribes had initially responded to the teachings of Ishmael, AWS, and embraced the faith of his ancestor Abraham, AWS. They had devoted themselves to Allah's worship, acknowledged his unity, and adhered to his divine guidance for an extended period, though eventually they began to lose sight of portions of what had been revealed to them. Nevertheless, they preserved core principles like the belief in one God along with several other elements of Abraham's faith, until an influential leader from the Quaid-e tribe, known as Amr bin Luhai, emerged. This man was widely respected for his piety, generosity, devotion, and religious dedication, earning him complete loyalty and respect from his people. During a journey to Syria, he encountered communities that engaged in idol worship, a practice he found acceptable and virtuous, reasoning that Syria was a land blessed with divine messengers and sacred texts. He returned carrying an idol named Hubal, which he installed at the center of the Kaaba, encouraging others to venerate it. This marked the rapid expansion of idol worship throughout Mecca and subsequently across the Hijaz region, as the Meccans served as guardians of both the sacred house and the entire sacred precinct. Numerous idols with various names began appearing throughout the territory. One such idol, called Manet, was venerated at Al-Mashal near Kadid by the Red Sea. Another, known as Al-Lat, was worshipped in Taif, while a third, Al-Uzza, was revered in Nakhla Valley, among many others. Idol worship became widespread as the number of these objects of veneration multiplied across Hijaz. Historical accounts suggest that Amr bin Luhai, guided by a jinn associate who informed him about the burial site of ancient idols from Noah's people, Wad, Suwa, Yagath, Yuk, and Nasr, in Jeddah, excavated these relics and transported them to Tihama. During pilgrimage seasons, these idols were distributed among various tribes to be taken to their respective territories. Each tribe and household came to possess their own idols, and even the sacred house became filled with them. When the Prophet conquered Mecca, approximately 360 idols surrounded the Kaaba, all of which he ordered to be destroyed, removed, and burned. Despite their claimed adherence to Abraham's religion, polytheistic practices and idol veneration became the defining characteristics of pre-Islamic Arabian religious life. The rituals and practices associated with idol worship were largely established by Amr bin Luhai and were viewed as beneficial additions rather than departures from Abraham's faith. Their idol veneration included several distinctive elements. Number 1, complete dedication to these idols, turning to them for protection, invoking their names, appealing to them during difficulties, and petitioning them for the fulfillment of desires, with the hope that these deities would act as intermediaries with Allah to grant people's requests. Number 2, making pilgrimages to these idols, walking in circles around them, showing complete submission, and even bowing down in worship before them. Number 3, attempting to gain the favor of idols through various forms of offerings and ritual slaughter, as referenced in the Quranic verse, and that which is sacrificed, slaughtered, on a nusub, stone altars, Al-Quran 5:3. Allah also states, "Eat not, O believers, of that meat on which Allah's name has not been pronounced, at the time of the slaughtering of the animal." Al-Quran 6:121. Number 4, dedicating specific portions of food, beverages, livestock, and agricultural produce to idols. Remarkably, they also allocated portions to Allah himself, yet people frequently found justifications to redirect parts of Allah's share to their idols, while never doing the reverse. The Quran addresses this practice, and they assign to Allah a share of the tilth and cattle which He has created, and they say, "This is for Allah according to their pretending, and this is for our, Allah's so-called, partners." But the share of their, Allah's so-called, partners, reaches not Allah, while the share of Allah reaches their, Allah's so-called, partners. Evil is the way they judge. Al-Quran 6:136. Number 5, attempting to win the favor of these idols through dedicated offerings of agricultural produce and livestock, regarding which the Quran states, and according to their pretending, they say that such and such cattle and crops are forbidden, and none should eat of them except those whom we allow. And, they say, there are cattle forbidden to be used for burden or any other work, and cattle on which, at slaughtering, the name of Allah is not pronounced, lying against him, Allah. Al-Quran 6:138. Number 6. Setting aside specific animals, including Bahira, Sa'iba, Wasila and Hami, for idols, which involved exempting these creatures from productive labor in honor of their false deities. According to the renowned historian Ibn Ishaq, a Bahira was the offspring of a Sa'iba, a female camel that bore 10 consecutive female calves without any males. This camel was liberated and prohibited from being yoked, burdened, sheared, or milked, except to provide drink for visitors. The same treatment was extended to all her female descendants, who were called Bahira after having their ears cut. A Wasila was a ewe that produced 10 successive daughters through 5 pregnancies, with any subsequent offspring reserved exclusively for men. The Hami was a male camel that sired 10 consecutive females and was consequently granted similar exemption from work. The Quran addresses these practices. Allah has not instituted things like Bahira, a she-camel whose milk was spared for the idols and nobody was allowed to milk it, or a Sa'iba, a she-camel let loose for free pasture for their false gods, e.g. idols, etc., and nothing was allowed to be carried on it, or a Wasila, a she-camel set free for idols because it has given birth to a she-camel at its first delivery and then again gives birth to a she-camel at its second delivery. Or a Hami, a stallion camel freed from work for their idols, after it had finished a number of copulations assigned for it. All these animals were liberated in honor of idols as practiced by pagan Arabs in the pre-Islamic period. But those who disbelieve, invent lies against Allah, and most of them have no understanding. Al-Quran 5:103. Allah also declares, and they say, what is in the bellies of such and such cattle, milk or fetus, is for our males alone, and forbidden to our females, girls and women, but if it is born dead, then all have shares therein. Al-Quran 6:139. Reliable sources confirm that these superstitious practices originated with Amr bin Luhai. Bukhari 1/499, the Arabs held the belief that these idols or false deities would draw them closer to Allah, guide them to Him, and intercede on their behalf, as the Quran states, we worship them only that they may bring us near to Allah. Al-Quran 39:3, and they worship besides Allah things that hurt them not, nor profit them, and they say, these are our intercessors with Allah. Al-Quran 10:18. Another form of divination practiced by the Arabs involved the use of aslam, featherless arrows of 3 types, one indicating yes, another no, and a third left blank. They employed this method for important decisions regarding travel, marriage, and similar matters. If the arrow showed yes, they would proceed, if no, they would postpone the matter for a year. Different types of aslam were used for matters concerning water rights, blood money, or showed results like, from you, not from you, or mulsak, associated. When questioning paternity, they would consult Hubal's idol, offering 100 camels to the arrow caster. The arrows alone would determine the relationship. An arrow showing, from you, meant the child belonged to the tribe, from others indicated the person would be considered an ally, while, associated, meant the individual would maintain their status without lineage or alliance rights. Muhadrat Tariq al-Yumam al-Islamiyya 156, Ibn Hisham 1/152-153, this practice resembled gambling and arrow dividing, where they would distribute camel meat according to this custom. Additionally, they placed great faith in the predictions of fortune-tellers, diviners, and astrologers. Fortune-tellers claimed to predict future events and possess knowledge of hidden secrets, allegedly having jinn servants who would relay information to them. Some fortune-tellers asserted they could reveal the unknown through supernatural abilities, while other diviners claimed they could uncover secrets through logical deduction to locate stolen goods, identify thieves, find lost animals, and similar matters. Astrologers formed a third group who studied celestial bodies and calculated their movements and paths to predict the future. Merkat al-Mafati 2/3, their belief in such predictions reflected their conviction that specific star movements held special meaning regarding rainfall patterns. Muslim within Nawawi 159. The belief in omens as indicators of future events was widespread among the Arabs. Certain days, months, and animals were considered unlucky. They also believed that a murdered person's soul would wander restlessly until vengeance was achieved. Superstitious beliefs were extremely prevalent. Despite their superstitious beliefs, the people of the pre-Islamic era preserved several Abrahamic customs including reverence for the holy sanctuary, ritual circumambulation, pilgrimage observance, the vigil at Arafah, and animal sacrifices. These practices continued to be maintained, though some innovations corrupted these sacred rituals. The Quraysh, for instance, driven by pride, feelings of superiority over other tribes, and arrogance regarding their guardianship of the sacred house, would avoid joining the masses at Arafah, choosing instead to halt at Muzdalifah. The noble Quran criticized this behavior, stating, "Then depart from the place whence all the people depart." Al-Quran 2:199, Ibn Hisham 1/199, Bukhari 1/226. Another corrupt practice embedded in their social customs prohibited them from consuming dried yogurt or cooked fat, entering tents made from camel hair, or seeking shelter anywhere except in brick houses while in the state of pilgrimage consecration. Due to a deeply ingrained misconception, they also prevented pilgrims from outside Mecca from consuming the food they had brought for their pilgrimage or lesser pilgrimage. They required external pilgrims to perform circumambulation around the Kaaba wearing Quraysh ceremonial garments. Those unable to afford such clothing were forced to circumambulate naked if male, while women could only wear a small cloth to cover their private parts. Allah addresses this issue, O children of Adam. Take your adornment, by wearing your clean clothes, while praying, and going round, the tawaf of, the Kaaba. Al-Quran 7:31. If pilgrims were affluent enough to circumambulate in their own clothing, they were required to permanently discard these garments afterward. Bukhari 1/226, Ibn Hisham 1/202. During pilgrimage consecration, Meccans would avoid entering their homes through doors, instead using holes they would create in the rear walls. They considered such behavior acts of righteousness and piety. The Quran prohibited this practice. It is not al-bir, piety, righteousness, etc., that you enter the houses from the back, but al-bir is the quality of the one who fears Allah. So enter houses through their proper doors, and fear Allah that you may be successful. Al-Quran 2:189. This characterized the religious landscape of Arabia: polytheism, idol worship, and superstition. Nevertheless, Judaism, Christianity, Magianism, and Sabianism managed to establish their presence in the region. Jewish migration from Palestine to Arabia occurred in two distinct waves. Initially, due to the oppression they faced, the destruction of their temple, and the capture of most of their population as prisoners to Babylon by King Nebuchadnezzar in 587 BC, some Jews departed Palestine for the Hijaz region, establishing settlements in its northern territories. The second wave began with Rome's conquest of Palestine under the command of Roman general Vespasian in 70 AD, which triggered a massive exodus of Jews into the Hijaz, particularly to Yathrib, Khaybar, and Tama. There, they converted members of various tribes, constructed fortifications and strongholds, and established village communities. Judaism came to hold significant influence in pre-Islamic political affairs. By the time Islam emerged in the region, several prominent Jewish tribes had already been established: Kabir, al-Mustalik, An-Nadir, Qurayza, and Kainuka. Some accounts suggest the Jewish tribes numbered as many as 20. Kalb Jazirat al-Arab, page 151. Judaism was brought to Yemen by a ruler named Azad Abi Karb, who had traveled to wage war in Yathrib, where he converted to Judaism before returning with two rabbis from the Bani Qurayza tribe to teach the Yemeni people this new faith. Judaism found favorable conditions there for expansion and gaining followers. Following his death, his son Yusuf Dhu Nawaz assumed power, launched an assault on the Christian population of Najran, and demanded they convert to Judaism. When they refused, he commanded that a fiery pit be excavated and ordered all Christians to be thrown in to burn. It is estimated that between 20,000 to 40,000 Christians perished in this massacre. The Quran references part of this account in the chapter Al-Buruj, the constellations. Tafhimul Quran 6/297, Ibn Hisham January 20, 36. Christianity first appeared in Arabia through the arrival of Abyssinian, Ethiopian, and Roman settlers in the region. The Abyssinian, Ethiopian, occupation forces, working alongside Christian missionaries, entered Yemen as retaliation for Dhu Nawaz's atrocities and began zealously promoting their faith. They even constructed a church, naming it the Yemeni Kaaba, intending to redirect Arab pilgrimage routes toward Yemen, and subsequently attempted to destroy the sacred house in Mecca. However, Allah the Almighty punished them and made them an example for this world and the next. Tafhim Quran 6/297, Ibn Hisham January 20, 36. A Christian missionary named Phimion, recognized for his ascetic lifestyle and miraculous works, similarly penetrated into Najran. There he invited people to Christianity, and through his integrity and sincere devotion, he successfully convinced them to accept his message and adopt Christianity. The main tribes that converted to Christianity included Ghassan, Taglib, Tai, some Himyarite rulers, and other tribes residing along the Roman Empire's frontiers. Magianism had gained popularity among Arabs residing near Persia, Iraq, Bahrain, Al-Asa, and certain regions along the Arabian Gulf coastline. Some Yemenis are also documented to have adopted Magianism during the period of Persian rule. Regarding Sabianism, archaeological discoveries in Iraq showed that it had been widespread among the Chaldean people, Syrians, and Yemenis. However, with the introduction of Judaism and Christianity, Sabianism gradually declined in favor of these newer faiths, though it maintained some adherents who were intermixed with or lived alongside the Magians in Iraq and the Arabian Gulf region. Tariq Ard al-Quran 2/193-208. The religious context. This describes the spiritual landscape of the Arabs prior to Islam's arrival. The influence exerted by the existing religions was minimal, practically negligible. The polytheists, who falsely claimed to follow Abraham's faith, had become completely disconnected from its teachings and entirely ignorant of its inherent moral values. They descended into disobedience and impiety, creating distinctive religious superstitions that significantly affected the religious and socio-political fabric throughout Arabia. Judaism had degenerated into despicable hypocrisy combined with authoritarianism. Religious leaders had become rulers, excluding the true Lord. They engaged in tyrannical control over people, holding their followers accountable for every word or thought. Their primary objective became the accumulation of wealth and power, even at the expense of abandoning their faith or promoting atheism and disbelief. Christianity similarly opened itself to polytheistic influences and became too complex to understand as a divine religion. As a religious system, it developed an unusual mixture of human and divine elements. It had no meaningful impact on the hearts of the Arabs who nominally embraced it, primarily because it was foreign to their way of life and bore no connection to their daily existence. Followers of other religions resembled the polytheists in their tendencies, beliefs, customs, and practices.